it's Erica. Welcome back to Maniacal Reader. Today I'm doing a book talk on Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. This is the second book in her Lunar Chronicles series, and this is a YA high fantasy series. This book follows a girl named Scarlet, who lives on her grandmother's farm in a small town in France, and she also helps at her grandmother's restaurant. At the start of the book, readers soon realize that Scarlet's grandmother has been missing for a few weeks. Everyone thinks that she's missing, but Scarlet believes that she's been kidnapped. Scarlet is a nice girl who's quiet, but she's really relatable. She also has this best friend named Emily. When she's working at her grandmother's restaurant one day, Scarlet comes across this guy who's half wolf and half man. She doesn't really know what to make of him because she saw him fighting at a club not too far away from her grandmother's restaurant. She definitely thinks that he's a street fighter. Wolf is what he calls himself. A friendship develops between Scarlet and Wolf. Wolf agrees to help Scarlet find her grandmother, since that's her main goal in the book. Not only do we follow Scarlet on her quest to find her grandmother, but we also get to see the point of view of Cinder. Cinder is the main protagonist in the previous book. That's all I can really tell you without spoiling the rest of the book for you. So if you haven't read Scarlet, you should come back and watch this review once you've read the book. We learn that Cinder has been thrown in prison by Queen Levana, since Queen Levana now knows Cinder's identity and that she is Princess Celine. While Cinder is in prison, she meets this guy who's also a criminal, and he calls himself Captain Thorn. Even though Captain Thorn is a criminal, he is definitely a nice guy, and he's definitely a humorous character. Cinder and Captain Thorn develop an unlikely friendship when Cinder and Captain Thorn break out of this prison using Thorn's spaceship, or a spaceship he technically steals, called the Rampion. We follow Scarlet's story as she's searching for her grandmother. We follow Cinder's story, but we also get to see Kai's story as well. And throughout this book, Kai's storyline involves making wedding plans with Queen Levana, which he hates, since he doesn't really have any affection towards Queen Levana whatsoever. As we move further along in the book, the reader discovers that Wolf is actually a secret operative, who's technically supposed to be working for Queen Levana. But he tells Scarlet that he doesn't want to be a part of his pack anymore. This all changes, though, when Wolf's brother Ran shows up, and Ran is determined to follow through with the orders that Queen Levana set. It turns out that Wolf is part of the pack that is keeping Scarlet's grandmother hidden. I didn't expect Wolf to be a secret operative working for Queen Levana, or the fact that he was even lunar, so this took me by surprise. When Wolf and Scarlet were on the train traveling to where they thought her grandmother might be, I really loved that moment between them, and you can tell that Wolf and Scarlet definitely have feelings for each other. I also like the fact that there was a lot more action in this book, and Queen Levana was determined to start a war against Earth, starting with Paris, as well as other places around the world. Even though Wolf did have feelings for Scarlet, I was surprised that after the Paris attack, he eventually went back with his pack, feeling that he didn't have a choice, and he betrayed Scarlet because of this. I was really upset during that moment. I didn't think he would ever betray her, so that moment shocked me a little bit and definitely took me aback. I also loved the scene where Captain Thorn and Cinder discover the workshop, the place where Cinder was hidden all those years ago before she was awakened as a cyborg. And Cinder got to learn more about herself and what actually happened to her years ago. I liked how Captain Thorn didn't pick up on the fact that Cinder was actually Princess Celine. I thought that moment when he didn't realize who Cinder actually was funny. Captain Thorn can be charming, but he's certainly not the brightest crayon in the box. Cinder actually sees pictures of who she was before she became a cyborg, and she realizes that half of her body was burned, so that's the reason why she had to become a cyborg, in order to survive what Queen Levana tried to do to her. I didn't like Kai very much in this book, although I understood where he was coming from with his character. He's still nervous about being emperor, and he's not really sure the best way on how to protect his people from Queen Levana's attack. Scarlet learns more about who she is and where she comes from. It turns out Scarlet's grandmother had an affair with a lunar person, and this makes Scarlet's father half lunar, which also makes her lunar. Scarlet's grandmother has the ability not to be swayed by the lunar gift, which is manipulation, and the lunar gift changes what people see and do. Because she has that chip in her, much like Cinder had, that prevents her from being manipulated by other lunars. Scarlet doesn't have this ability like her grandmother does, so she can be easily manipulated by other lunars. Because Scarlet didn't know she was a lunar, she doesn't have the power to manipulate others. In other words, she's known as a shell, and a shell is an ungifted lunar. When Scarlet learns the truth about herself, she also learns that Cinder is actually Princess Celine. I loved how the author did that and connected the characters all in some way. I think she did that very effectively. The wolves that are surrounding her grandmother kidnap her as well. It was sad to see Scarlet's grandmother die, but I knew in some way that Captain Thorn and Cinder would rescue her. I just didn't know how. I loved it when they eventually showed up and Scarlet's all shocked and Cinder comes in with a gun and Thorn says hi to her and saves her. I loved that scene in the book. It was an awesome action scene, but it also made me laugh. Also during that scene, Wolf comes back to Scarlet and tries to save her before Captain Thorn and Cinder get there. My heart was in my throat in that scene. Even though Wolf is lunar, he can still be manipulated by other lunars, and a Thermitage manipulated him. When Thermitages were around him, they made him give in to his wolf instinct, and I wasn't really sure if Wolf was going to eat Scarlet or not, since he was giving in to his wolf instinct, and I wasn't sure if Scarlet was going to make it. It was emotional for me, since I wasn't sure if Wolf would eventually calm down or what would happen to Scarlet. I do have to say, I did enjoy Wolf's relationship with Scarlet more than I did Kai's relationship with Cinder in the previous book. It seems to me that Scarlet and Wolf are more intense and passionate characters. I also like characters that are conflicted. So I definitely liked Wolf and Scarlet's relationship more than I did Cinder and Kai's. I do like cutesy relationships, but I like intense and passionate relationships a little bit more. I liked one of the final scenes between Scarlet and Wolf when he's looking for a can of tomatoes, but he's not really sure how to open them, and Scarlet and Wolf talk after everything that's happened, and they agree that they have feelings for each other. Scarlet agrees to be his alpha female and to be with him, since an alpha female and an alpha male in a wolf pack stick together and make sure to protect each other, so that's what Scarlet agrees. I thought that was a cute moment between them. I also liked how everything wrapped up with the characters in general. Cinder finally told Scarlet, Wolf, and especially Captain Thorn that she was Princess Celine, and she's determined to take Queen Levana down. I love how Wolf offered to help her with training. I thought that was a sweet offer, and I think they're definitely going to follow through with that later on in the series. This was such a cute book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I loved the plot in this book. The story was definitely stepped up as opposed to the previous book that didn't really have a lot of action. I loved all the new characters we met, especially Wolf, and I think Captain Thorn will always be a humorous character, so I loved meeting him as well. The last thing I wanted to mention about this book is Kai, since things turn back to Kai near the end of the book. I was so pissed off that he decided to marry Queen Levana, since he didn't really know any other way to solve the issue and for her to stop these attacks. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. Those are all of my thoughts on Scarlet. Comment down below and tell me what you think of this book. What parts did you like? What parts didn't you like about this book? I'll see you guys in my next video.